Hello, I'm David Bradley, aka TechDave, and today we are doing Project Cerberus, which involves, like the three-headed dog who guards the gates of hell, installing, and believe me it will be hellish, installing 3 operating systems: Windows XP, Windows 7 and Windows 10. Testing. So we've got our ridiculously large, over-exaggerated version of, there we go, right. So, we have 3 USB sticks, one with Windows XP, one with Windows 7 Pro and one with Windows 10 Pro. Now I'm preserving this installation on mSATA SSD, and I've divided it into 111, well 112ish, 111, 180 and 180 again for each operating system respectively. And yes, I'm filming this from a 14-inch Samsung TV with a webcam, so you have to excuse the quality of the image. But this is Project Cerberus, baby. Yeah, and we don't care about image quality, we care about getting the job done. So yeah, what you do, to do this anyway, you go right click on Start in Windows 10, go to Device, sorry not Device Manager, what am I talking about? Go to Disk Management, wait for it to load up, and then you take the hard drive you want to do and you partition it in by literally right clicking, say delete Windows 10 for example. You take the unallocated space, new simple volume, next, with subdividing the space into however many partitions you want, and I'm going to assign it drive letter Z. I'm going to call it Windows 10 Pro, and then finish. Yes, I'm vaping. So I've assigned them as X, Y and Z just to keep it simple. And what we're going to do is try and install Windows XP on this partition, then Windows 7 on this one next. So it has to be in this specific order for it to work. So Windows XP, Windows 7, then Windows 10. And at the end we should have a delightful bootloader with all 3 operating systems. So this is Project Cerberus, let's see how it goes. So we're going to shut down the PC and install our USB stick and then boot from the USB stick. One moment please. It just occurred to me it's probably best to show you actually how to acquire the operating system. Well, not how to acquire them, you have to acquire them of your own volition, but or with your own sources. But what to do with the USB sticks to prepare them. So first of all, now you're going to need product keys for all these operating systems, and you're going to need to acquire the ISOs yourself for most of them. But with Windows 10 you can go directly to Microsoft and that's interesting. Download the, so it's Microsoft.com, or just Google Windows 10 download and you download the tool and then open when ready. And then you can acquire the ISO legitimately and reasonably without any issue from Microsoft themselves. Now regards Windows 7 and the Windows XP, you're going to need to find, I'm sure with a bit of Google foo, you'll be able to find a copy of Windows 7 and Windows XP with very little effort. I'm going to show you in fact actually what I'm going to do with the XP edition, you need to find a copy of Windows XP, and then I will link a video by a guy, I think it's Phil's Computer Lab, showing you how to make a bootable USB. And I'll put the information on the screen as well, hopefully. Will there be a link in the description down below or a reference in the comments to that particular video. So what we're doing at the moment is just downloading the ISO image for Windows 10 Pro for this laptop. I'll be back once we've got a bit further through this. Okay, so the next stage, you can either upgrade the PC directly or create installation media. So that's what we're going to do now. Let me just get this thing focused so it's a bit more visible what it actually says there. There we go. Create installation media. So you click next, and depending on what you want to do, you can use the recommended options or not, but these are all perfect for me anyway. So next, and then you want to create ISO file. Now you can directly create a USB flash drive, but we're going to use a program called Rufus to burn the Windows 7 operating system and the Windows 10 operating system, so we need ISO files. And then we just save it to wherever you want to save it. I chose documents. And then you wait for the procession of the download, and I'll be back once it's downloaded. Okay, so we've got Rufus open, and it's detected my USB sticks. So this ESD ISO has already got a Windows 10 image on it, but that's the one I'm going to use for Windows 7. Now if you follow the video tutorial in the Phil's Computer Lab video, you'll have two partitions on your USB stick for Windows XP that say E2B and PTN2. So I'm not going to show you any more about that, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this USB stick that we just installed, and then I'm going to, hold on, I've forgotten to do something. So we've got a Windows 7 ISO there, copy that to documents. I'm just going to paste that, it won't take a second. So we've got, as you can see, we've got Windows 7 Professional SP1 64-bit. So you have to acquire the ISO by your own means, or ISO file by your own means. So we've got that copying, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we're back on the computer again, although for you time hasn't really passed. Now I've increased the zoom of the thing so that it's easier to work. So this ESD, so basically you open Rufus, which we shall do from your downloads folder. Just double click, obviously, blah blah blah. Now I've got two USB sticks plugged in. This top one, D and E, is the partitions for Windows XP, which should have been able to follow the instructions from the Phil's Computer Lab video that I link in the description, and it should have various things on it, and that should be good to go. But what we want to do is then what we want to do is select our USB stick, which needs to be, I believe, 4 gig for Windows 7, 8 gigs for Windows 10, and obviously a smaller disk for Windows XP. And then you just select disk or ISO image, so you click select, and I go to documents where I've got saved my ISO image of Windows 7. So we've got standard edition, master boot record you want to select. I always make sure I do that, and then it should automatically set up a volume label. I go with NTFS. I think it's the only option you can do because of the master boot record, whereas with general partition table you can choose FAT32, but I find that quite a lot of systems won't actually boot from a GPT drive, or during the installation process you can't do multiple installs, so we're going to go with master boot record, and then you just click start. All data on the device will be destroyed. Just click OK. Obviously this is going to, as it says, destroy all the data on your device, so make sure to back up anything important on it if you wish to save it, if you're not using a blank USB. And then we just wait for this to format, and I'll be back once it's done. Right, so that's nearly finished. So whilst it's finishing up, I just got a few things that I thought were worth mentioning. You're going to need a USB stick of each size for each operating system. So either 2, 4 or 8 gigs respectively for XP, Windows 7 or Windows 10. But if you've got another device that you can use, such as a Windows 10 or Windows 7 laptop, or that isn't the main one that you're installing the operating system to, you can use the same USB stick for the different ISOs depending on what you do. So I was just showing you this one as an example of how to install Windows 7 and Windows 10. The process is entirely the same for Ubuntu. If you wanted to boot a Ubuntu system, it's entirely the same if you wanted to boot a Windows 10 system, Windows 8.1 system. And yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning. You're going to need an individual USB stick for each install, or a separate device to then write the ISO images to on the USB stick again. So I'll be back in 1 second when this is completely finished. So another point to make whilst this is copying the ISO file and making the bootable USB stick is that you're going to need an operating system on the hard drive in the first place. So if you're doing a fresh install on a fresh hard drive on a fresh computer, you're not necessarily going to be able to partition Windows using Windows XP effectively. It's not very simple to do. Now you can get various partition tools off the internet to do that within Windows XP, but it's incredibly convoluted. I'm just pouring some filter coffee here to get me through the installation process. So what I would recommend is installing, you can do it through Linux using gparted. You can do it through Windows 7, and you can actually use gparted just from a live USB stick or a live CD. But Ubuntu installs in that sort of context, and partitioning isn't exactly my forte. But it does give you the option during a live CD of Ubuntu to create a set of partitions. But the easiest way to do it is just use whatever operating system you're starting off with on the device, or install a single operating system, do the partitioning, then do the installs once you've created the partitions. So it may be a case of installing the later operating system first, like I have. So you see I've got Windows 10 on here, and then once you've got that first install done, you can partition, and then you have to go back and install XP, Windows 7 and Windows 10, because there's no way of doing it within Windows XP basically. And just perfectly timed, that has finished. So what we've got now, I've got my Windows XP drive, which is that one. I've got my Windows 7 drive, and then I'm going to create a Windows 10 drive from within Windows 7. So we're going to reboot. Now at this stage, while we're restarting, now in my case, because I'm on a ThinkPad, I'm on an X230i, I just press enter to do the startup interrupt menu, which you can't see, so let me just turn that around. Oh no, it's alright, it'll show on the screen in a minute. I'm going to choose a temporary startup device, but generally you need to go into your BIOS and hold on, where's my, there we go, into your BIOS and set up the install. Hold on, I'll be back in a sec. Right, excuse the wobbly camera work. So you need to enter your BIOS, and then you need to go to boot or boot order, and then you need to boot, and you need to set it so that your USB device is the first choice on your boot priority. Now mine's already done, so I'm just gonna exit discarding changes, and it should hopefully, unless I've ballsed this up, boot from my USB device here. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Right, so this might be a bit of a weird angle, but I'm just making, oh never mind. Right, so we are attempting to boot into our ThinkPad via USB, and then we got the easy to boot loader thingy jobber here, and then you go to Windows install menu, install Windows XP step 1, and this should all be explained in his video, in Phil's Computer Lab video, but I'm just going to run through it a bit. Tell you what, once I've done it, I'll yeah, I'll be back. Okay, so we're at Windows XP setup now. Installing off our delightful Maplin USB. God rest their souls. Rest in peace, Maplin. And it's just like basically any standard Windows setup. If you've ever installed XP before, you'll recognise all these. Oh, you can't really see it, but I'll be back. Right, here's what I've been waiting for in the past two clips. We look for our partition space, so we've got Windows XP there, and you go down to that partition that you created in Windows 10 or your other operating system, and click enter to install, and format the partition using NTFS file system. Make sure you can see that. And then to format the drive, press F, and there we go. And from there it's a relatively straightforward Windows XP installation. So that's obviously quite a mundane thing to deal with, so I'll let you enjoy the delights of installing Windows XP. It is explained in the Phil's Computer Lab video, all of this process. So once we get into XP, because I've shown you the basic bit, then we'll go on to install the next operating system. Now we are into our delicious Windows XP installation process. Doesn't that look marvellous? Don't you remember the good days of Windows XP? The glorious, glorious days of Windows XP. Setup will complete in approximately 39 minutes. Hope to God that's not the case. But when we get to installing drivers, then it's going to be a long time. But yeah, we're installing devices. So just follow through all the prompts, and I'll be back again in a minute. So just quickly before we move on, you want to get something called sditool.org/download, and you want to get, if at all possible, you want to get the torrent for the full version, and then open it with something like BitTorrent or uTorrent, and download the whole package. It's 17.1 gig, so be wary of that depending on your personal data allowance, etc. But you need that for the next step. And as you can see, we're doing our first time boot into Windows XP. Glorious, glorious, glorious Windows XP. So just follow through all the prompts until it's fully installed, and then we'll do the next bit. Let's see if I can catch this glorious opening sound of Windows XP. Oh, no sound. Well, as you can see, I'm signed in with TechDave. On a Windows XP install, and where is it? There we go, Windows XP. So currently offline, currently no nonsense, and we're going to keep it offline, which is why we need to download the Snappy driver installer, full package if at all possible, so we don't have to put the device on the internet with Windows XP because it's entirely insecure. So I'll be back once that's downloaded. So as it's going to probably take at least 45 minutes for me to download the drivers for Windows XP, the full driver package, I'm probably going to just install the next operating system before doing the updates and drivers for this operating system. So we're going to move on to Windows 7. And it's just standard Windows 7 installation. I'm sure you can look up how to install Windows 7, but just to show you that I'm now installing Windows 7, and I'll come back. Actually, hold on, I'll show you what we need to do here. For the second part of our installation process, we need to install, so obviously select your desired language and keyboard layout, install now, setup is starting, and then we need to select the Windows 7 partition that we created earlier on. So accept license terms and agreement, and we want to go to custom, and then we want to pick the Windows 7 Pro, and then the rest of it is quite straightforward. It's a standard installation of Windows 7, which again, there's so many opportunities to find that on YouTube, so I'm just going to skip straight over that bit for now, and I'll come back when I've got Windows 7 installed. Alright, so we're most of the way through our Windows 7 installation. It's restarted, it's on the second phase of installing Windows. What I was going to say, and I'm probably going to use, because I recommended to download the full SDI package, I'm going to use that to install the drivers for Windows XP and Windows 7. But I noticed that my Windows 10 install does actually still register on the bootloader. I missed the opportunity to show you, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to record the entire. I'm going to do the entire reinstallation process of Windows 10, so that it's got the Windows 10 Metro bootloader. But then I'm also going to show you a way to use a program called EasyBCD to change the bootloader to the Metro bootloader again. So I just thought I'd point that out before I moved on any further. This is a crazy camera angle right now, but at least it vaguely shows what I'm doing. So yeah, I'll be back in a jiffy. So quickly, here is the bootloader, and you should have at the top now, you've got Windows XP, which is called earlier version of Windows, Windows 7. Now unless you already had Windows 10 installed, you won't have Windows 10 at the bottom, but you can select now between Windows XP and Windows 7, so we're part of the way there. And then we're going to continue to install Windows 7, and then I shall move on and show you how to install Windows 10 to the third partition. And then I'm just skipping disk checking because I know it's fine. That's not fine to do that, but oh well, it's just, that's how I roll, man. So yeah, as you can see, we're preparing for first time use. Sorry about the image quality. There's only way I can capture it is direct off the laptop screen, unfortunately. But yeah, so once we've got Windows 7 basically just installed, then we'll do Windows 10, then we'll go and do the driver installations for Windows XP and Windows 7. So I shall see you on Windows 10 install. So as you can see, we've got Windows 7 installed with no updates, no internet access, no nothing at the moment. So we'll be moving on to Windows 10, and then we'll go back and update all these bad boys. So now I'm quickly going to take my USB stick, which is my SanDisk 128 gig little USB stick, and I'm going to do the same process we did with Rufus, but with the Windows 10 ISO. So I won't show you that, but it's entirely exactly the same process, and you need to put Windows 10 on here ready to boot if you've got just one USB stick and not a separate USB stick for each operating system. Okay, so we've got our USB stick, plug it into the USB port. It's got Windows 10 Pro, well, Windows 10 ISO installed on it. I'll do a brief run through of the installation process, but it's pretty much straightforward. In fact, it'll look terrible, but I shall. Let's see. I mean, again, with Windows 10, I mean, it's pretty straightforward to install, but I'm doing the Windows 10 install next, and then once I've done that, because obviously there'll be private data involved and I've got to activate it and things like that. Once I've done that, actually, hold on. Just need to do. There we go, we got a cursor, that's a good sign. We need to do the selection of the partition. So you can't see it, but it just says English UK language, time and currency format, United Kingdom, install now. Then what we're looking for is our Windows 10 partition that we made in the original operating system. I'm going to select, I don't have a product key because I've got a digital license linked to my, there we go, that's much better. So I've got Windows 10 Pro digital license, so I'm going to activate that later on, and then we accept the license terms, blah 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 blah. Custom install again, then we look for our Windows Pro 10 Pro partition, and then click next, and then it's just, after that it's a straightforward Windows 10 installation, just as you would normally do. And then I'll be back to show you how to get the Metro bootloader, although Windows 10 should install the Metro bootloader with all the previous versions of Windows, but it may overwrite the entries for the other forms of Windows. So we'll just install Windows 10 for now on the laptop, and then when I've got that up and running, I'll be able to show you on the big screen how it all works, setting up the bootloader with ECBCD. I'll be back. So just to point out, we just got installing Windows, just a standard installation. Again, I'm not going to show you how to install Windows 10 because there's so many guides to it and it's quite straightforward, but I will show you further how to set up the triple boot and any optimizations, and then we'll go through installing the drivers as well. And I'm gonna activate Windows 10 and Windows 7 Pro obviously off camera, and XP as well. I think we're about to see the bootloader. There we go. So if I just tap around, so we've got Windows 10 on volume 3, Windows 10 on volume 5, earlier version of Windows on Windows 7. So this is basically the desired outcome. And once we've updated all the operating systems and got them working, we'll have a full Project Cerberus working iteration. And now I believe Windows 10 on volume 3 is a fresh installation, so I'm going to just boot into that. And then so it's basically done. It just requires, now all that's left to do is the updates and the installation of drivers, which is a long arduous process, but I'll do that once I've got it set on the big monitor again, because I imagine it's probably quite tedious looking at it on a tiny laptop screen through a webcam. So I'll be back once we're at the point where we can view accurately and adequately what we're doing. Cool. Right, so now I'm booting into Windows 10, but I'm booting into my original install. Let's see if I can get this camera a bit more clear. Oh, right, okay. Never mind, scratch that. So I just had to launch startup repair, because what I was doing is booting into the original Windows 10 installation that was already on the drive, and apparently it's repairing disk errors and it might take over an hour to complete, which is joy of joys. So I will be back in potentially over an hour, because my plan, what I was thinking of doing was, rather than validating the same install of Windows 10 twice, oh no, there we go, I think we might be in luck, because I don't want to use one of my validations up my digital with my digital license. So I'm going to set up the original Windows 10 install. There we go. Let's see if this works. Let's see, fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. It appears to be booting into Windows 10, although it did this last time. So this is the trouble when you're triple booting things, is these little strange errors that can occur. And aha! We are in luck. Right, I'll be back in 1 sec once I've got the camera set up properly. So, potentially, if you've got, as I just discovered, if you've got a pre-existing install of Windows 10, you can install the other two operating systems. And I think the reason it worked for me is because I installed it on a separate hard drive. I've got an mSATA hard drive and a doobie, what's it called? Normal, just standard spinning disk hard drive. But regardless of which way around you do it, if you need to change the bootloader, there's a program called EasyBCD, and you go, it's neosmart.net/EasyBCD, and then you click register. I think you're supposed to click register, but if you just click download, the program downloads anyway. And then you just open that up, install it. I don't want a desktop shortcut, don't use the desktop. And then install. And then run. Now what this enables you to do is edit the boot order and the name of the entries. So we've got Windows 10 current, so we want to edit boot menu, and hold on, let's go back, view settings. So if you're doing the same thing as me, so we got, that's entry 4, so we want to remove entry 1 and make entry 4 the default. There we go. And then we put that, and you can slide it up to the top, and then you want to get Windows 7 next, up to the second point, and then we go to earlier version of Windows, which is our XP installation, and type Windows XP. And the jobs are good. You can use the Metro bootloader, you can skip the boot menu altogether, you can get it, change the countdown amount, but I'm just going to stick with what I've done here, and then I'm going to delete this other Windows 10 entry, and then save. Oh, what happened there? Add new entry. Okay. Microsoft Windows, we want the C version. Okay, so it deleted. Right, Windows entry added. So there we go. Default not set. So we've got Windows on C. All very confusing. What's going on here? But at least I'm having these problems so that you don't have to go through them. So we're going to make Windows 7 our default. No. Right, which Windows versions we need? Edit boot menu, view settings. Right. So we've got Windows 7, Windows XP, Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Windows. So I balls this up a little bit. So both on C. View settings. Windows 7, Windows XP, Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Windows. So close that. Not now. And I'm going to reopen it and see if that shows a more clear. Well, at least I'm making these mistakes anyway. So Windows 7, Windows XP, Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Windows. Edit boot menu. So this one we're going to rename Win 10, Windows 10 A. And rename this one Windows 10 B. Now I'm going to now figure out which one of these is the right one. Save settings. So we've got 4 operating systems. So we want Windows 10 A at the start, then Windows 7, then Windows XP, then Windows 10 B. So hopefully, if I restart now, escape. If I restart now, it should go into the correct version of Windows 10. So we'll soon find out. But yeah, the program's easy BCD anyway, and that's how you edit the boot menu in the Metro bootloader, or the bootloader, sorry, not the Metro bootloader. And we're just waiting for. So you can't see this because I'm off screen. So let me. So it's showing Windows Boot Manager. So I'm going to boot into Windows 10A, which hopefully will be the correct version. And then we can delete Windows 10B. Are we in luck? And I believe we are in luck. So yeah, troubleshooting so you don't have to. So we've got Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, and then we are going to go to Easy BCD once more. And then remove the edit boot menu, Windows 10B, delete. There we go. Now save settings. Now, if you've done the same as me, no thank you. You can go to disk management, and so we've got Windows 7, Windows 10. Now if you wanted, because I've got Windows 10 here already, I can delete this partition and then expand or extend the Windows 7 partition to include all that extra space. So there we go, we've got a 400 gig Windows 7, 112 gig Windows XP, 60 gig Windows 10 installation. So there we go. We've basically completed the process. Now all there is left to do is install the drivers, which I'm going to skip because I've basically achieved my goal. Oh, one last thing to do actually. On Easy BCD, because it was the text version, we want to quickly edit boot menu, use the Metro bootloader, save settings. You can also set it to wait for user selection so it doesn't automatically boot into any operating system, but just for my purposes I'm going to actually, let's rename that just Windows 10 as well. Save settings. So we have completed our task. So this has been a rather long-winded, rambly video about Project Cerberus, as I've dubbed it, the three-headed demon that guards the gates of the underworld. And as we can see here, should show up if I hold it close enough. We've got, there we go, job is a good one. Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows XP. Right, I've got to still install all the drivers for Windows 7 and the drivers for Windows XP and activate both of them. but my basic task is complete. So Windows 10, and every time you boot the operating system on, you can choose between any of these 3 operating systems. Now the final question is, why would you want to do that? Well, a lot of people like retro gaming. I personally have a rather extensive Windows XP library, thanks to my mate Jack, on disk, and they don't run on Windows 7. They definitely don't run on Windows 10. Windows 7 is also useful if you want to run, in like I might do in my case, legacy music hardware, such as I've got a USB keyboard up there, this one just here, that runs natively on Windows 7 absolutely fine, but then you have to do a little driver hack and some force driver install, blah 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 blah, stuff like that. And I use a lot of old computers and keyboards, as you can probably see around there. We've got a various few of them, but yeah, that's Project Cerberus. So the aim is to get this process, and we have completed it. So thank you for watching. I hope this has been vaguely interesting and not just too rambly. And like and subscribe if you like what you see, and if you want more sort of random tech videos like this, because there will be quite a few more of them coming. And yeah, peace.